Hi everyone, my name is Yu. This is my custom project topic, which is when does geometric distortion affect semantic behavior in VLMs? And this is my presentation overview. Okay. So as we all learn in the class, VLMs usually their structure will be like they will use a connector to connect with the vision encoder and the LLM. And which means that our most of the model will rely on the connector to map the vision embedding to the language space. And there is a paper announced last year. They're using the k-nearest neighborhood to prove that there is the geometric distortion before and after the connectors. And they also use the reconstruction models to reconstruct the vector after the projection to the before the projection, and using the information using those of that models to uh using it to correlate it with the CIDR score to prove that you can actually somehow using the information those to predict the CIDR's score degradation in the end of it, but they're not that consistent, which means that some models don't really have it. And this is so the goal of this project is to figure out what type of a distortion will actually affect the semantic performance, and also does this relationship actually hold across the different metrics? For example, I using a Crane 2.5 as an example. Even though after the reconstructions, you can see the clip score is actually being higher and their birth score doesn't really change. Before we go into explain our analyze pipeline, I want to introduce two types of the VLM training pipeline at first. This is because the model I'm using is the Lava and IDFix2 and the Crane 2.5 VL and Crane 3.5. For Lava and IDFix2, they're using the pipeline called frozen pipeline, which is that we will frozen the vision encoder and the LM part, only training the connectors when we are training it. We're probably going to fine tune it at the end of it, but for most of the time, we only train the connectors. However, for join train pipeline, we are not only train the connectors, we also train the vision encoder and the LLM. So we actually train them all together. That's the main difference. For our analysis framework, we're using three different perspectives to training to analyze the relationship between the information loads and the final semantic behavior. First of all, we're using a geometric analysis to prove that there is the geometric distortion in before and after the connectors. And second, we are still using the reconstruction models to do an analysis. However, the only difference that I will do this with the clip score and burst score in the semantic parts. And for third one, we are doing the projection analysis, which means that we are doing the masking and lowering to our post vector to see if this kind of the distortion will going to affect the semantic behavior. The dataset we're using is the MTF 2025 Discovery VLM Challenge. Well, this is not actually the classic dataset to evaluation, but I'm probably going to improve it later. So here's the result of the k-nearest neighborhood to just the part of it to pre-vector and after vector. As you can see, there is the geometric distortion before and after projections. For first model, they still preserve some structure. As you can see, they still have the 0.4, 0.4, 0.44, some kind of it similarity. But for Crane models, it doesn't really have it. They are totally different structure. However, when you're going to use the clip embedding space to do the k-nearest neighborhood, we could see that the reason why the Crane's models were having that large structural distortions because their post vector is actually the vector who have the higher clip overlap, which means that their post vector is the vector that's really similarity to the vision token instead of the pre-vector. And this is the reconstruction part. As you can see, they don't really have the consistent relationship between the reconstruction quality and semantic stability, especially for Qwen 3.5. Even though their reconstruction quality is pretty good, but they still have a higher semantic drift. And of course, for different metric, they have a different behavior. This is a result of the masking. For mask, well, the summary is really simple. The higher the masking we use, larger the semantic drop we have. For low rank, this is funny because as you can see in the photo, in the picture, it actually shows us that most of the VLMs visual part is actually only stored in the low dimensions vectors. So we can only use a pretty low ratio to still having a pretty good semantic behavior in the end of it. Okay. So for summary, for geometric distortion parts, frozen models still have the neighborhood structure, even though after the projections. But for joined models, since their pre-representation vector is actually not a true visual baseline, that's the reason why they will have a pretty high distortion. For reconstruction, well, their quality is not really a consistence related to the semantic behavior in the end of it, so we can't really use it as a predictor of the semantic metrics. For protections, well, masking do leads to significant semantic degradation, but lowering results show us that most of the vision encoders, most of the VLMs vision part is actually stored in their low dimensions. And here's the limitation and what the future we can do. First of all, this clip score and buzz score probably not really going to reflect the test level correctness, and the different metric will probably give us a different conclusion. Because, for example, the original paper they're actually using CIDR, but we can't really use it because our dataset doesn't have the multiple captions. And also, the Qwen's pre-representation vector is not really a true visual baseline. So our geometric proof is not that valuable, I would say it. Future work we can do, we can try with a different dataset, going to use the different evaluation methods, and going to analyze the token level or the spatial source for the semantic drift. Also, we can try with a different connector design to know if our connector have the lower information loads, probably we can have a better information, and we can going to see indifference ratio of the lowering. Why is there a difference? And I think that's all. Thank you.